Welcome, welcome. All right, so I purchased a booster box, and it had 36 boosters for Outlaws of Thunder Junction, and I drew a Geared Mirror of the Wilds, and decided that I would make him the commander for this. I still ran into problems with lands, but I did find a local and have purchased a box for $15 of 500 lands. I was really glad to find that. And I haven't looked through all of them, but there definitely are 500 lands as promised from what I've seen. I fully expect that they did provide that. And it's great. It offers 100 of each type, and I feel like that's going to allow me to build a lot of decks with the 500 cards there. I still need dual lands or fetch lands, lands that do something more interesting than just provide mana. And so I am looking to try and find a way to get a large quantity of those to help supplement these. So far, there are other cards in these that I feel like building across sets is going to be the next step. I might buy some just loose cards to help fill in those kinds of decks. But with that, I'm looking at maybe doing some monocolored. So far, I've been doing multicolored decks, and feel like doing some monocolored decks are going to be the next step. But at any rate, I'll stick to this now and talk about this deck. With Geared Mirror of the Wilds, their text is haste, and then non-token creatures you control have tap, create a token that's a copy of a target token you control that entered the battlefield this turn. And so I did put some token generating cards in here as well. I'll go over a few of those. I'm not going to go over all of them. It's 100 cards. I'm going to stick to the rares and mythics in these. But if you want me to go over all 100 cards in the video, I will. I will include a link, though, to the full deck on Archdeck, because there are a fair number of commons and uncommons that I included to help fill things out, and that will also generate their own tokens for some of them and do other things that make the deck interesting. But with the commander that I chose to use, I decided to include Roxanne, Starfall Savant, and their text is, whenever Roxanne Starfall Savant enters the battlefield or attacks, create a tapped colorless artifact token named Meteorite with when Meteorite enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target, and tap, add 1 mana of any color. Whenever you tap an artifact token for mana, add 1 mana of that type, of any type, that artifact token produced. And so I feel like if I can get that Roxanne out with Geared, there's going to be some interesting comboing and generating a lot of mana from that. And so I am excited, and I really like the idea of those two being paired in this deck with some of the other cards I have. And then I've got Taiki Walken, Perfect Shot. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to a creature equal to that creature's toughness, draw a card. And then pay X, tap. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to a target, to a permanent or player this turn, it deals that much damage plus X instead. So I feel like pairing her, or Taiki Walken, Perfect Shot, with Roxanne Starfall Savant, pairing those will also offer more, right? Because whenever Meteor enters the battlefield, deals 2 damage to any target. So if I can attack with Roxanne, I believe that will allow me to trigger Taiki Walken's Perfect Shot ability. And so I'm hoping those do pair, and I can run that together, since it says non-combat damage, and that doesn't read like combat damage to me. And so I'm excited. for that, and the potential that that offers as a combo. And I feel like I can pair it with that and draw cards as well. And so I really like the idea of those three cards being in the deck together and the potential comboing that offered off of them. And so I kind of built that as a backbone, or started that with the idea of the deck. But I also had a Grand Abolisher. And I really like the text of this. I thought it's really interesting. It's going to slow down a lot of other decks, I feel like, because it says during your turn, opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. So I feel like that offers a lot of potential to limit other players if that card comes out. And so I built it with those kind of in mind, hoping that those can come out and pair. And then I also included some other cards that I really liked or had heard were good from other things, like Aven Interrupter. It's a flash card and has flying. When Aven Interrupter enters the battlefield, exile target spell, it becomes plotted. Its owner may cast it as a sorcery on a later turn without paying its mana cost. Spells your opponents cast from the graveyards or exile cost 2 more to cast. And so I feel like the potential of this deck creating interruptions or slowing things down is pretty high, because there's a few more cards, and I'm going to go over some of them, that impact turns and slow things down with that. And so I also have a Outcast Trailblazer, and their text is, when Outcast Trailblazer enters the battlefield, add 1 mana of any color. Whenever another creature you with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. And then they have plot as well. Pay 2 and a forest. You may pay 2 and a forest or green and exile this card from your hand, cast as a sorcery on a later turn without paying its mana cost. Plot only as a sorcery. I'm not entirely sure how impactful that will be, that plot feature. I'm not sure if I fully understand it, since it's the same cost as the card. I'm imagining that there would be things other players have done that would make me want to slow down or not play this right away, and have the option to protect it as it comes out or something like that. And then the other card, or another card I included, was Free Strider Lookout. They have reach. When you commit a crime, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a land from among them onto the battlefield tapped. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This ability triggers only once each turn. Targeting opponents, anything they control and or their cards, their graveyards, is a crime. And so I feel like that crime feature offers some interesting things, since I do have cards in here that will trigger that, right? Like already Aven Interpreter, where they're exiling another card. I believe that would trigger that crime and would allow a card to be drawn. Then I've got Sephiric Steed, and it has first strike, lifelink. Whenever Sephiric Steed attacks well saddled, create a 3/3 white angel creature token with flying. And then saddle for tap any number of other creatures you control. Total power 4 or more. This mount becomes saddled until the end of turn. Saddle only as a sorcery. And so I guess that's the same as crew from vehicle equipments. At least I assume it is. And so the saddle feature is interesting, but that whenever it attacks, create a 3/3 white angel creature token with flying. Feel like that offers the potential, when paired with Gilred Mirror of the Wilds, to generate a lot more 3/3 White Angel creature tokens. And since it's a 2 cost and has that, I feel like there's the potential that if I can bring that out on the right kind of turn, where I have lots of creatures to tap or non-token creatures to tap, I can end up generating a lot more seeds. And then, right, and so I feel like there's a lot of pairing offered with this. And then I also have an Henri Tumblewag. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Whenever Henri Tumblewag attacks, well saddled, double the number of 1/1 counters on target creature. And so that I feel like offers a lot of potential to generate counters on the different cards I have out there. And then I also included a Bristol Bud Farmer. The one I drew from the decks. I decided I wanted to keep that in there. And it has Trample. When Bristol Bud Farmer enters the battlefield, create 2 food tokens. Whenever Bristol Bud Farmer attacks, you may sacrifice a food token. If you do, mill 3 cards. You may put a permanent card from among them into your hand. And that being a 2 colorless, 2 forest, or green, and being a 5/5, I feel like that's really powerful, especially with that text added there as well. On its own, 5/5, 4 cost. Like, that's pretty good in my mind. And then it creates 2 food tokens, which heal for 6, effectively. And with Gilred, if he's out there when that comes out, it means I can tap and get more food tokens to create more life recovery. And so I feel like the potential with that is really good. And pairing it with the commander, and the relatively low cost for all of that, right? Because he's only 3 mana and he's 4, total of 7 mana to have both of them out there at the same time, right? Bring him out and then play that card. I feel like that's very doable. And so a lot of these pairings that work well with him, I feel like are quite achievable for relatively low cost compared to some of the other decks I've built. And so with this deck, I also have a Generous Plunderer, and he has Menace, or they have Menace. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may create a treasure token. When you do, target opponent creature, or target opponent creates a tapped treasure token. Whenever Generous Plunderer attacks, it deals damage to defending player equal to the number of artifacts they control. And so with that generating treasure tokens, I feel like using that paired with the commander, right, is going to allow me to generate a lot more mana utilizing it in the right way, which will allow me to do a lot more each turn. And so things like that, I'm really excited to see if I can pair them and if I can get them to trigger and pull off in a way that generates a lot of extra tokens to be used. And then I also have an Earthra Joe Frontier Mentor. When Earthra Joe Frontier Mentor enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 red mercenary token with tap. Target mercenary you control gets +1/+0 until the end of turn, activated only as a sorcery. Whenever you activate an ability that targets a creature or player, copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. I was really excited to include that because of that copying. I feel like that's going to pair really well with some of the cards in here, since there are plenty of things that do trigger and have the potential to target other things. I feel like there's a lot of potential in comboing with other cards in here. And so a lot of this is, I'm really excited to play this deck and see if I can get things to trigger, if I can pull things off with it. And so I feel like it offers a lot of really interesting combo potential and unique things happening. Especially since there are cards like this where it can help slow things down for the other players on my turn, or make it difficult for them to do things on my turn. giving me a higher potential, I feel like, to pull things off with Grand Abolisher and Avon Interrupter. Avon Interrupter, I guess. Card. Right? I feel like those are going to end up making things a lot harder for other players at the table. And then I still had some others cards that I felt would be impactful. Right? I drew an Ancient Cornucopia. Whenever you cast a spell that's one or more colors, you may gain 1 life for each of that spell's colors. Do this only once each turn, and then tap 1 mana of any color, or add 1 mana of any color. And so there are a lot of cards I feel like in this that are multicolored, right? Like the Commander. And so I feel like that has some potential. And then I also got a Contagion Engine. And that is when Contagion Engine enters the battlefield, put a -1/-1 or -1/-1 counter on each creature target player controls. And then you can pay for and tap Proliferate twice. Choose any number of permanents and or players. Then give each another a counter of each kind already there. Do it again. Then do it again. And so I feel like that has the potential to end up killing a lot of creatures, because as I understand it, if you put a -1 counter on something, and it's a 1/1, and the toughness goes to 0, it would instantly die, is my understanding of how those counters work. And then with that, I also drew a High Noon, which is an enchantment. It says each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. Pay for, sacrifice, and 1 fire or red mana. Sacrifice High Noon. It deals 5 damage to any target. And so this is another one that really I feel like helps slow things down and pairs well with the Grand Abolisher and Avon Interrupter. And I feel like if I could ever, in a game, get all of those out at the same time, it would create a really, really slowing down kind of the game, limiting what people can do, and making them make the most of each card they played, right? Including myself, since that will affect me as well, right? Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. Now, as I understand it, even creatures are spells, but abilities on the cards are not considered spells. And so if I understand that correctly, I feel like that won't really negatively hurt this deck because of features like this, right? Where I can tap them to create additional tokens, and cards bring tokens out. And so I really like the idea or the potential that offers. I'll need to double check some of the rules to make sure that it does that, and that I don't have to edit this deck. But assuming that it works the way that I think it does, I feel like that offers a lot of complexity, as well as creating for situations where people can think through what they're going to do to be most impactful. And so I also drew an Outlaws Merriment. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose 1 at random, create a red and white creature token with those characteristics. 3/1 human warrior with trample and haste. 2/1 human cleric with lifelink and haste. 1/2 human rogue with haste, and when this creature enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to any target. And since if I have that out, I'm going to try and have this out so that when that triggers, I can then create additional tokens. And all of those seem like good tokens to have, right? Because those 2 have haste, and then the last one just deals damage when it comes out. And so I am excited to see if I can pair a lot of these with Gilred, the Mirror of the Wilds, because I feel like that offers a lot of potential. I also drew a Smuggler's Surprise. I love the art on this, right? Trojan horse. And then the cost is the green or forest mana, and then additional costs, +2, mill 4 cards. You may put up to 2 creatures and or land cards from among them, the milled cards, into your hand. And then pay 4 and an additional forest, or an additional 4 and forest or green. You may put up to 2 creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. And then an additional 1, colorless, create creatures you control with power 4 or greater, gain hexproof and indestructible until the end of turn. And so I feel like that's a really powerful instant. And obviously I'd be hoping to pay it at the highest cost of the 8 mana on my turn, right? As something that could ensure that attack goes off, and allows me to actually deal damage to another player using my creatures. And so I feel like there's a lot of potential with pairings and things in this deck. And then along with that, I have Path to Exile. Instant, exile target creature. Its controller may search their library for a basic land, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. And so with that, it's something that I would pair with or be hoping to pair with the Commit a Crime, and trying to find the card that I mentioned or talked about already. And I can't seem to find it for some reason. There are several cards that when you commit a crime, right? And so, like, it's not the best, I don't think, but it is interesting. It's a rare, and I thought it'd be fun to have, and I love the art. I love the wanted poster kind of art that this Outlaws of Thunder Junction has. And then next card that I also included is Final Showdown. Spree, and so pay additional mana, and all creatures lose all abilities until the end of turn. And so it's 1 plains or 1 plains and 1 colorless. And then if you pay an additional colorless, choose a creature you control. It gains indestructible until the end of turn. And then if you pay colorless and +3 colorless and 2 plains, destroy all creatures. And so the flexibility that kind of Final Showdown offers, and the power of that seemed like a really good thing to include. And then I also got a Decimate, destroy target artifact, target creature, target enchantment, and target land. The fact that it's and is really great. And for only 4 cost. And then I was really excited to include it because it's a holographic, and it's that wanted poster style art that I really enjoy from this. I really like the coloring of the wanted posters, the way that they've shadowed it and done that. I really enjoy these. And then I also got a Collective Defiance, which is a 1 colorless, 2 fire mana, or mountain or red mana, and then you can escalate, pay an additional 1. Pay this cost for each mode chosen beyond the first. And so choose 1 or more. Target player discards all the cards in their hands, then draws that many cards. Collective Defiance deals 4 damage to target creature. Collective Defiance deals 3 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. And so I really enjoyed the art, but just that seems like a good card in general as well for what it does. And I also had a Primal Might, and that is target creature you control gets XX and +X until the end of turn. Then it fights up to one target creature you don't control, right? And it's X, and the cost is X, and one forest or green mana. And so I feel like the potential with some of these combos, if I'm able to bring that out at the right time and have other things out there, the potential to generate a lot of mana in this deck seems high if I'm able to combo the right things. And so there's a lot of things about this deck that really excite me. I really enjoyed building it and reading through the cards. From what I understand, the setting is somewhat not liked or controversial among Magic, and I can understand that. Guns always seem to be a controversial thing when dealing with kind of Might and Magic settings, or complicated thing for a lot of people to accept. And I kind of agree with that. Like, I don't feel like guns oftentimes have a place in Might and Magic. It's much more of a melee weapon or magic setting in my mind. And I feel like guns oftentimes create complexities that don't really offer a lot storytelling wise. But in a game like this, I feel like it doesn't really change much if you aren't just there for the story, right? If you're just there for the card game, I think it's fine. It may not, make sense in the terms of physics, but I don't really care. None of this has to. It's a game. And I really enjoy the setting, the way that they've drawn the art, the things they offer with it, and the poster style of art with it. I really enjoy these wanted poster styles of art, the way that the coloring is on them. And so there's a lot I do enjoy about this. I can definitely understand some of the complaints that I've seen online, but I've still enjoyed looking through the cards and building the deck. I've had a fun time with it. And other than my general complaint about not being enough lands, especially unique or dual lands that offer unique features, and I feel like maybe that's because I'm new to the game and other people wouldn't agree with me. I'm not sure how much of a topic that is. I haven't seen anyone else really talk about it. So I feel like maybe that's just something I have because I'm new to it, and so I find that I don't have enough cards in general to build new decks with. But let me know in the comments. I'm happy to hear feedback. I'm interested in what people say. But I've had a lot of fun with this. And if you've stayed with me and enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, comment, anything helps. And I appreciate that you're staying till the end. And I hope you have a lovely day.